The sun set over the Giza Plateau, casting long shadows that stretched across the ancient pyramids. Their towering forms loomed against the darkening sky, their golden surfaces glowing faintly in the fading light. But to those few who had begun to uncover the mysteries hidden beneath their stones, the pyramids were more than ancient tombs. They were something far greater, a link to a time and knowledge that stretched far beyond the reaches of Earth. Dr. Selene Al-Fayeed, an archaeologist and one of the foremost experts in ancient Egyptian civilization, stood silently at the base of the Great Pyramid. Her mind was racing with a discovery that could alter everything humanity thought it knew about the past, the universe, and the very nature of existence. Her journey had begun innocuously enough, with a peculiar series of signals from a satellite that had been orbiting the Earth for several years. The signals, which initially seemed like random noise, were eventually found to be something far more structured. Patterns, strange but deliberate, encoded in a language that was too complex to be of human origin. The signals had led her to Giza, where, after months of research and investigation, the team had found something that made the pyramids far more enigmatic than anyone had ever imagined. "We've traced the signals to this exact spot," Selene said. Ferris, her colleague, and one of the leading astrophysicists on the project. He stood beside her, scanning the horizon where the last rays of sunlight disappeared. "I can't make sense of it, but I can tell you, this isn't a coincidence." Selene glanced at him, her thoughts still caught in the riddle of the signals. "I agree. There's something beneath us, something we're not supposed to know." At first, it seemed like a typical archaeological breakthrough, just another discovery beneath the ancient sands. But as the excavation deepened, something more than buried tombs had emerged. A hidden chamber, enormous in scale, had been uncovered beneath the Great Pyramid, a chamber that defied everything known about ancient Egyptian architecture. The dimensions alone suggested that it was not built by human hands. "Whatever it is, it's not from this world," Ferris said, a note of unease creeping into his voice. Selene nodded, her gaze fixed on the ground below. She was unsure if she was more excited or terrified by the implications. The ancient Egyptians had left behind incredible wonders, but this discovery was like nothing they had ever encountered before. The pattern of the signals had grown stronger as they approached the pyramid, and now, as they neared the chamber's entrance, Selene could almost feel the vibrations pulsing through the earth. The team had assembled at the chamber's entrance, standing in awe before the narrow passageway that led into the heart of the pyramid. The air inside felt colder, as if the very atmosphere was weighted with secrets. As they descended deeper into the pyramid, they began to encounter strange, alien symbols etched into the walls, symbols that did not resemble any known Egyptian hieroglyphs or Sumerian cuneiform, but instead bore the unmistakable signature of an advanced, otherworldly civilization. "Look at these," said Layla, the team's linguist, as she carefully examined the symbols. "This is an ancient Egyptian. It's not even any known human language. It's foreign." Selene stared at the symbols, a chill creeping down her spine. "I think these symbols are more than just language. They're part of something larger, a key, perhaps, to understanding what was hidden here." As they pressed onward, the narrow passage opened up into a vast chamber that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The space was impossibly large for a tomb, and at its center stood an object unlike any Selene had ever seen. It was not a burial chamber. It was a vessel, sleek, metallic, and glowing faintly with symbols that seemed to shift as they moved closer. "That's a ship," Ferris breathed, his voice low and reverent. The object before them was a starship, a vessel far beyond anything humanity had ever created. Its surface shimmered, and strange energies hummed from deep within it. It was not of Earth. It was not even of this era. "I don't believe this," Layla whispered. "This can't be real." Selene's heartbeat quickened as she stepped forward, feeling a strange pull toward the ship. As she neared it, the surface of the craft seemed to react to her presence, its glowing symbols pulsating with life. "Why was this hidden here?" Layla asked, her voice quivering. Before anyone could respond, a low hum reverberated through the chamber, and the hatch of the ship began to open slowly, as if beckoning them in. The team froze, fear and fascination warring inside them. They weren't just standing in front of a relic of the past. They were standing in front of something that had been waiting for millennia to reveal itself. Out of the opening emerged a figure, tall, lithe, and utterly unlike any human being. Its skin seemed to shimmer with an iridescent glow, translucent in parts, and its eyes burned with an unnatural light, ancient and wise. It looked at them as though it had been expecting them for eons. "Are you from another world?" Selene asked, her voice trembling with awe and fear. The figure didn't speak immediately. It seemed to regard them with an air of ancient patience, as though it was assessing whether they were worthy of understanding its message. Finally, it spoke, its voice a soft, melodic tone that reverberated through the chamber. "We are not from your stars, Earthling," the figure said, its voice carrying an ancient sadness. "We are the survivors of a war that has left this world in silence for far too long. Your people are now the inheritors of the past." "Who are you?" Ferris asked, unable to keep the fear from his voice. "We are the travelers. Our civilization existed long before the rise of your Egypt," the figure replied. "Long before your pyramids were built. We came to Earth not as conquerors, but as explorers, bringing knowledge and peace. But there were others who came to claim this world, to exploit it. A war broke out, a war that ravaged our kind. We built these pyramids not for your ancestors, but for ourselves, to house our fallen and to protect the knowledge of our civilization. But over time, we faded into myth and legend." Selene stepped forward. "So, the pyramids, they were never just tombs?" The figure shook its head slowly. "No, they were not meant for your kings, but for us. Our kind was buried here alongside our technology. Our enemies, too, lie buried in the sands, waiting. The war that ravaged us is not over. It has simply been dormant." The room grew colder as the figure continued. "The signals you detected were not a message of discovery. They were a warning, a call to those who would wake the graveyard of the stars. We have long feared this day, the day when those who once fought us would rise again. And now, that day is nearly upon us." Ferris's voice shook with disbelief. "The enemies you fought, they're coming back?" The figure nodded solemnly. "Yes, and they are coming for Earth." Selene felt her heart skip a beat. The significance of the discovery was slowly sinking in. This wasn't just an archaeological find. It was a key to a much darker secret. The pyramids, these ancient structures, had been the final resting place for not just humans, but for an entire extraterrestrial civilization. And now, those ancient enemies, dormant for millennia, were about to awaken. "We cannot stop them on our own," the figure said, its voice heavy with sorrow. "But you, Earthlings, may have the power to end the war. You must seek out the knowledge we left behind, find the buried technology, unlock the secrets hidden in these pyramids, and you may yet save your world." Selene's mind raced as she considered the implications of the figure's words. The fate of the Earth, and perhaps the universe itself, rested in her hands. The pyramids were not mere monuments. They were the gateway to a far larger story, one that had been written long before humanity ever walked the Earth. And that story was just beginning. The figure's words echoed through the chamber like a distant, fading memory, each syllable laden with an urgency that made Selene's heart race. "You must seek out the knowledge we left behind, find the buried technology, unlock the secrets hidden in these pyramids, and you may yet save your world." The weight of what was unfolding was almost too much to comprehend. The ancient pyramids, the most enduring symbols of Earth's history, were not just tombs for pharaohs, but the resting places of an intergalactic civilization that had arrived long before humanity had even begun to build its first cities. And now, that civilization's dormant enemies were about to awaken, bringing with them a threat more unimaginable than anything on Earth. Selene could hardly breathe. The chamber around her felt suffocating, heavy with the gravity of her discovery. The figure before her, a being from the stars, stared at her with ancient eyes, waiting for her response. "What are these enemies?" Ferris asked, his voice unsteady but filled with determination. "Who are they?" The figure's eyes darkened, and for a moment, it seemed to fade, its form blurring as though it were pulling memories from another time. The ones who came after us were a ruthless species, more machine than flesh, driven by an insatiable hunger for power and domination. They sought to conquer the stars, to strip entire planets of their resources, and Earth was one of their targets. When our civilization stood against them, a war broke out, one that consumed both sides. But we were not the only ones who sought refuge here. Selene leaned forward, her mind spinning. You mean there are other alien species, buried here, hidden beneath the pyramids? The figure nodded slowly. Yes, our enemies fell, but not without leaving their mark. Their technology lies dormant beneath your feet, buried within the earth, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The war between us did not end with our death. The machine forces we fought are now returning. They have awakened. Ferris took a step forward, a sense of disbelief lingering in his voice. So these beings, they've been in the pyramids, lying dormant for millennia? Yes, the figure said gravely. And now they stir once more. The signals you detected were their doing, a call to those who would rise again and reclaim what was lost. You cannot ignore it. The balance of your world, and the cosmos itself, hangs on the edge of a blade. Selene felt her chest tighten as she struggled to grasp the enormity of it all. This wasn't just an archaeological find. It was a battle for the future of Earth and the universe itself. The pyramids, the symbols of an ancient civilization that had long since vanished from human memory, were the linchpin in a war that had raged in the darkness of space for eons. We must stop them, Layla said, her voice trembling. But how? What can we do against a power like that? The figure regarded her quietly for a moment before speaking. You must awaken the technology that lies within these pyramids. There is more than just a ship here. The pyramids themselves are part of a larger mechanism, a defense system that was built to protect your world from the forces that would destroy it. But it has been dormant for too long. The knowledge of how to activate it is hidden within the very stone of these monuments. You must decipher the ancient technology and reawaken it before it is too late. Ferris clenched his fists, the determination clear in his eyes. How do we do that? The figure hesitated, as though considering how best to explain something that had been lost to time. There are 3 keys, 3 locations across your world, each containing a piece of the technology needed to awaken the defense systems of the pyramids. The first key is here within the Great Pyramid. The second lies beneath the waters of the Mediterranean, hidden within the ruins of a forgotten city. The third is in the jungles of South America, within the heart of a pyramid older than the ones you see here. Selene felt her pulse quicken. You want us to travel the world to find these keys? Yes, the figure said. You must find them before the machine forces arrive. They will stop at nothing to reclaim what is rightfully theirs. The keys are the only hope your world has of surviving what is coming. The weight of the task ahead felt immense, but Selene knew there was no turning back. What they had discovered here was bigger than anything she could have imagined. The pyramids were not just the tombs of kings. They were ancient guardians, and their time had come again. As she nodded to her team, Selene made a decision. We'll do it. We'll find the keys. We'll stop whatever is coming. The first key, the one beneath their feet, was buried deep within the Great Pyramid itself. The ship that had once sat dormant was now fully awake, humming with energy as though it had recognized the presence of its would-be saviors. The next step was clear, but the path forward was anything but easy. Selene and her team spent the next few days combing through the interior of the Great Pyramid, searching for any sign of the technology that would unlock the defense systems. As they moved deeper into the pyramid's labyrinthine tunnels, the walls seemed to respond to their presence. The cryptic symbols on the walls pulsed with energy, shifting and changing, as though they were alive. These aren't just markings, Layla said, tracing a symbol with her fingers. They're a map, a guide to something deeper within the pyramid. After several days of deciphering the symbols and studying the patterns of the signals, Selene's team had uncovered a hidden chamber beneath the pyramid's burial chamber. Inside, they found a mechanism, a large, intricate device embedded in the floor of the chamber. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a fusion of ancient stone and advanced technology. This is it, Ferris said, his voice tinged with awe. This is what the figure was talking about. The first key. Selene felt a surge of excitement. We have to activate it. But as she stepped closer to the device, the temperature in the chamber dropped suddenly. A low, mechanical hum filled the air, and the walls seemed to close in around them. A deep, rumbling sound echoed through the pyramid, as if something vast and ancient was stirring from its slumber. "The enemies are closer than we thought," Selene muttered. "We have to hurry." With no time to waste, Selene pressed a series of symbols on the device, matching the sequence that the figure had shown them. The device glowed briefly, then released a burst of light that seemed to ripple through the pyramid like a shockwave. The ground trembled, and the very stones beneath their feet seemed to pulse with life. Then, as quickly as it had started, the device went silent. "Did we do it?" Layla asked, looking around nervously. Before anyone could respond, the figure materialized once again, its form flickering like a hologram. "The first key is activated," it said, its voice filled with a sense of quiet triumph. "But the others are still waiting. You have little time. The war is coming." Selene nodded, her heart heavy with the burden of their mission. The first key had been unlocked, but there was no time to celebrate. The journey ahead would take them across oceans and jungles, through ancient ruins and forgotten cities. But one thing was clear: the battle for Earth had already begun. The air was thick with tension as Selene and her team stood in the dimly lit chamber of the Great Pyramid. The first key had been activated, but the task ahead was far from over. The ancient technology had stirred, but with that awakening came a sense of urgency, a warning that the dormant enemies of the intergalactic travelers were closing in. "We don't have much time," Ferris said, his voice sharp with determination. "The signal is growing stronger. The machines are already waking up, and they know we're here." Selene nodded, her mind racing. The first key had unlocked a part of the pyramid's ancient defense system, but the other two keys were still out there, waiting to be discovered. They had no choice but to press forward, to seek the remaining pieces of the puzzle before the machines could reclaim the technology and the power hidden beneath the sands. The map they had uncovered in the Great Pyramid had pointed them toward two more locations: the forgotten city beneath the Mediterranean Sea and the heart of a jungle in South America. Both places were steeped in legend, obscured by time and the ravages of nature. But Selene knew they had to go there. They had no other choice. The Mediterranean was calm, its waters shimmering under the midday sun as Selene's team boarded the research vessel that would take them to the site. According to ancient records, a lost city lay submerged beneath the waves, an advanced civilization that had vanished long before recorded history. It was said to be a place of great power, one that had once held the second key to unlocking the defense systems of the pyramids. "This city was lost to time," Layla said, staring out at the vast expanse of the sea. "It's only mentioned in a handful of ancient texts. No one really believed it existed until we found the signal here." The boat's crew navigated carefully through the waters, their eyes scanning the ocean floor with sonar equipment. Hours passed with nothing but open water, but then, deep beneath the surface, a faint shape emerged, a series of jagged, angular structures that formed the outline of an ancient city, lost to the depths. "This is it," Ferris said, excitement and apprehension blending in his voice. "We found it." With the team suited up in diving gear, they descended into the depths of the Mediterranean, the ancient ruins slowly coming into focus as they approached. The city was vast, with towering stone structures covered in algae and coral, their surfaces worn by the ages. But amidst the ruins, something gleamed, a structure that seemed different from the rest, its shape angular and distinct, glowing faintly even underwater. As they explored further, the divers found a hidden chamber beneath one of the larger buildings. Inside was a large, spherical device, its surface etched with the same alien symbols they had seen in the Great Pyramid. It pulsed with a soft light, as though it were alive, waiting for them. "This is the second key," Layla whispered, her voice filled with awe. Ferris moved forward cautiously, checking the symbols on the device against those they had uncovered in Egypt. "We need to activate it, just like the first." Selene stepped forward, carefully pressing the corresponding symbols on the device. The glow intensified, and the ground beneath them trembled. A deep rumbling echoed from the depths of the ocean, and the water around them began to churn violently. "It's working," Selene said, her heart pounding in her chest. "But something's wrong." Suddenly, a massive shadow passed overhead, and the water grew cold. From the depths emerged a colossal, mechanical form, an enemy warship built of dark, metallic surfaces, its surface adorned with strange, glowing symbols. It was a relic of the war that had raged millennia ago, and now it had awoken. "We've activated it," Layla said, her voice shaking. "But we've also alerted them." The warship's massive form loomed closer, its energy weapons primed and ready. There was no time to escape. "Activate the key," Ferris shouted. "We need to turn it on before it's too late." Selene's mind raced. She could feel the vibrations of the ancient device beneath her hands, and with a sudden understanding, she pressed a final set of symbols. The device flashed with light, and the warship shuddered as if struck by an unseen force. It faltered, its power momentarily disrupted, before slowly sinking back into the depths of the ocean. Selene let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. "That was too close." "One key left," Layla said, her voice steadying, though the urgency was still clear. The jungle was dense and oppressive, the air thick with humidity as Selene and her team trekked through the untamed wilderness of South America. Their destination was an ancient pyramid, rumored to be older than those in Egypt, hidden deep in the heart of the jungle. This was the final key, the last piece of the puzzle that would awaken the full power of the pyramid's defense systems. For days, they hacked their way through the jungle, following ancient maps and GPS coordinates. The jungle was alive with sound, birds, insects, and distant animal calls, but there was an unsettling stillness in the air, as though something were watching them. When they finally reached the pyramid, it was unlike anything they had seen before. The structure was covered in thick vines, its stonework eroded by centuries of rain and decay. But it was unmistakably a pyramid, with a base larger than any structure they had encountered before. "This is it," Ferris said, awe in his voice. "This is where it all began." They entered the pyramid cautiously, knowing that the final key lay somewhere within its walls. The interior was vast, and the walls were covered in more of the strange symbols they had seen before. But in the center of the pyramid stood a massive stone altar, on which rested a third, intricate device. "This is the third key," Layla whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's exactly like the others." Selene stepped forward and pressed the symbols on the device. The stone altar rumbled, and the pyramid seemed to come alive, its walls glowing with energy as ancient machinery began to stir. But then, the air grew cold, and the rumbling deepened. From the shadows of the pyramid, a towering, mechanical figure emerged. An enemy soldier, built from dark, gleaming metal, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "It's them," Selene said, her voice grim. "The war isn't over." The figure advanced on them, its mechanical limbs creaking with each step, and the team instinctively backed away. But Selene stood firm. She pressed the last sequence of symbols on the device, and with a deafening roar, the pyramid's defense systems activated. The threat had passed. The machines had been defeated, and the ancient technology had been reawakened. Selene and her team stood at the foot of the pyramid, looking up at the ancient structure that had once been nothing more than a relic of the past. But now, it was a symbol of survival, a symbol of humanity's triumph over an unimaginable threat. "We did it," Layla said quietly. "We did," Selene replied, her voice filled with a quiet pride. "But this is only the beginning. The knowledge we've unlocked is just the first step in understanding who we truly are and what else is out there." The journey had been long, and the stakes had been higher than any of them had ever imagined. But as they stood together, watching the sun rise over the pyramids, they knew one thing for certain. The war was over, and Earth had been given a new chance. The stars were no longer distant and unknowable. They were within reach, and humanity was ready for whatever lay beyond them.